Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to All You Served's webinar this month, Pods and Beyond. Some housekeeping tips. The presentation will be recorded and will be available next week on the All You Serve website. A certificate of participation for 1 CEU credit will be available as well. Any questions you may have, there'll be contact information. The PowerPoint will be available as well. Again, anything, certificate of participation, the recording, or the PowerPoint will be available on the All You Serve website by next week. So those are the housekeeping tips. Okay, well, welcome. We will get started. My name is Marcia Diamond, and you are in for a treat this afternoon. We are going to be do pods. Is it for my operation? Today, what we were going to talk about is the clarification of what is a pod, understanding of the pod benefits to your operation. We're going to learn the basics of building a pod, equipment, resources, and people, and you will be able to evaluate your meal delivery options that can influence the production of the tray makeup. So we are very fortunate today that we have three wonderful panelists. Susan Bull, from the Manager of Nutrition and Food Services from Scarborough Hospital, Robin Rush from Kingman Regional Medical Center, and Bill Notte from Thomas Jefferson University Hospital. I am your facilitator, Marcia Diamond, and if you have any questions during the webinar, please type them in and we will get to them towards the end of the webinar. We've got a lot to cover, so we're going to do it that way. Okay, Susan.
Hello, everyone. I'm Susan Bull. I'm a dietitian, Manager of Nutrition and Food Services at the Scarborough Hospital General Campus for the last going on 30 years. We're at the east end of Toronto. And if you're looking at the picture, I'm the one holding the sign, Go Leafs Go. So you'll know that I'm also an optimist. We have a 325-bed facility. You're looking at something that looks like a Campbell's soup can with a building attached to it. We used to have 770 beds. We're down to 325. So that is the facility that I work in. We have another facility with our hospital, but they are on a different system entirely, so I won't be talking about them.
Thank you, Susan. Bill, tell us a little bit about your site.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bill Notte. I'm at the Thomas Jefferson University Hospital in downtown Center City, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We are a 869-bed hospital on two locations. One hospital is the main hospital, the Gibbon Hospital building, and the second is the Neuro Hospital, which is about 2 blocks away. We have 4 pods, one in the neuroscience building and 3 in the main hospital, and another one on the drawing boards to give us 4 pods. I've been here for 2.5 years. And the other facility I worked at that had pods was the University of Florida Shands Hospital.
Thank you, Bill. And Robin.
Hi, everybody. I'm Robin, and the Director of Kingman Regional Medical Center. We are a rural 234-bed hospital located in the northwest corner of Arizona. For those of you who've gone from the Grand Canyon to Las Vegas, we are right off the I-40, so feel free to drop in. And we implemented a pod about a year ago. We have 1 pod in place, able to do it for very little money, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Okay, so to get started, we wanted to define what a pod is. The anatomy of pod. Healthcare kitchens are adapting lean manufacturing practices. And so what a pod is a point of assembly. It should really be called a point of POA. And it's one server usually works with an example of 2 hosts or hostesses dishing up entrees while the host or hostesses assemble the rest of the tray. It shortens a tray line. 4 pods is equivalent to 8 tray lines according to the streamlined practices. Benefits of a pod is there's a dedicated team working on meal assembly, the versatility of it. It allows your kitchen staff to have cooking processes and flexibility, everything from cook serve to chef table to precision temperature cooking to at your demand kind of room service preparation. It increases patient satisfaction. They are receiving meals quicker, timely, right food temperatures. It supposedly improves food presentation because people are more accountable and more ownership of it, more owners and renters. You have flexibility with your equipment, more effective use of compiling your equipment, menu versatility because you can do everything from a traditional meal 7-day selection to a restaurant style. Because the pods are set up to get small batches of cooked food at a time, you have better control of food safety, cold and hot. And it increased pride and ownership, some of the benefits. As we move forward to some of the Q&A as we're going to do it, is you have to think you've come on for a reason. You've come on to learn what a pod means, the verbiage of it. So look at your site and see, are you trying to achieve hotter food, colder food, efficiency, speed, maximize your footprint, or minimize your footprint, reduce your capital expenditures of the meal delivery types of equipment, and ergonomic workstations? If you are, pods may be reasoning to start. Now, one of the things we wanted to clarify is terminology. Everyone uses the verbiage of pods differently, we're finding, and there isn't a consistency. So what a pod is not meal selection. Meal selection is either spoken through traditional trade tickets, room service call center, a mobile selection, whether it's with an iPad or any kind of mobile device. That's meal selection. Then it goes, as you can see, then you can go to production. Now, you can do a chef station kind of production unit. You can have cook chill. You can have precision temperature, traditional cooking. Then meal assembly. And what a pod is, its point of destination is where you assemble the meal. Either there could be a traditional tray line or a pod. A pod can be combined with meal selection, with the type of meal delivery you're doing. But a pod is a meal assembly. So it is a component of the whole patient satisfaction. From meal assembly, you have a tray delivery, which can be either bedside trays or congregate family-style dining, which is doing it either in a family satellite dining room or bulk feeding, and ultimately you want happy patients or residents. So you can see pods have been defined as being all of these things. They are a component of it, and each one makes for successful, and you have to decide the combination. It's kind of like an a la carte menu. Choose what works for you, but it is a component of it. The other thing is pods are either in C-shape, T's, or L formation. And so the idea of a pod is everything is, there's a place for it, and to be leaner and cleaner. Okay, so Susan, tell us a little bit about your facility and what you're doing with the pod today.
Okay, thank you, Marcia. I think it's interesting how we got to the decision to put pods in. So I'm going to give you a little bit of history about our hospital. I won't take too long. The Scarborough Hospital used to consist of only the general campus, and we had 770 inpatient beds. It was built with a full conventional kitchen, and when I started in '84, we had 17 cooks, an exceptional reputation for food, and a 16-day selective menu. Several budget cuts over 2 decades got us to the 325 beds that we have now. Our kitchen became less functional. As our cooking equipment reached the end of life, it just wasn't replaced. It was left in place and then just not used. And more prepared foods were brought in. So by the time we got to 325 beds, we had 1.8 full-time equivalents for cooking. And our average reputation for food, when we had an exceptional one before, and we had a 7-day non-selective menu. So it was at this point when a change in the senior leadership at our hospital took place, and I found myself reporting to an enlightened vice president who saw the link between nutrition and patient recovery. And she was willing to be our champion. So we began our transformation journey known as refreshing our menu, first by obtaining money from a government fund whose purpose was to encourage the use of fresh and local foods. With that money, we were able to purchase and install new gas-fired cooking equipment and hire a chef for 9 months to assist us with the menu refresh. At the same time, we were able to hire an external consultant to help us determine how to transform the way we deliver our service to our patients to increase our satisfaction. So our consultants were a tremendous help to us, and we considered all of the fashionable new styles of delivery, including room service, call centers, bulk food, and mobile carts, etc. But we settled on bedside ordering. And what we want is our staff taking the orders using tablets or laptops. So we needed to find the labor hours to do this without adding money to our compensation budget, because that was the mandate. You have to do it, but you can't have any extra money. So it was decided that we would improve the tray assembly process and by removing our old conveyor and putting in pods. Well, you can see on the slide that we were able to repurpose 13.5 hours of labor per day by doing this, and that is really tremendous. We spent about $150,000 on new assembly equipment, so our pods are all new equipment. We increased by a full-time equivalent our chef team and our tray delivery team by 1.4 full-time equivalents. So we've been operational now with our 2 pods, affectionately they're known as Salt and Pepper, for about 1.5 years. So during this time we've been sourcing and installing new nutrition software as we learned that our current software was no longer going to be supported. So we went live with our new software in November of last year, and in a few weeks' time we will be taking patients' menu orders at the bedside. So we are not that'll be the last step in our project, the bedside ordering. But the key was to find the labor within our system, and pods were the answer for us. And I would do it again in a heartbeat. I'll just go through a list of the questions that Marcia gave us before turning things over to Bill. Definition of a pod for us is a 2-man workstation with a runner that stocks each pod and prepares tea and coffee. We don't have chefs on our pod. Our coordinators direct our tray assembly staff, so that's who runs.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to get a little bit of his, and I'm going to come back to you to get some of those questions, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. So, okay. Robin.
Okay, we, as I said, we're a small rural hospital, and we decided after the extreme frustration of watching tray line with 8 people stopped for a length of time while we ran for a chopped this or ground that. So we talked to the staff. They were also frustrated and decided that the pod was the way to go. Have loved it, like Susan would not go back. It has saved us time. You can imagine it shaved off at least 10 minutes off of each tray line and a whole person off of the tray line. So we were able to redeploy that labor in other areas. Okay, I think that we also use bedside menu ordering, and we use tablets as part of that process.
Thank you. And Bill.
And Bill. And as you all can see, it says the Naked Kitchen, but all those people have their clothes on. And the reason for it, why I entitled my PowerPoint that I used to present as the Naked Kitchen, is we had a 25-year-old circular tray line from Avtech, and it was frequently breaking down and parts being replaced. So what I said to my staff is, well, you know, what are we going to put in place of it? I started in 2004. We did the pod in 2006, and they kind of looked at me and I said, what would you put in the kitchen if it were naked, if there was no equipment, what system would we put in? And obviously we had all the choices of going to a straight line, replacing the circular line, or trying to talk somebody into buying us room service and redoing the kitchen. So what we decided was we visited Wake Forest in Raleigh, North Carolina, and they had pods, and we took a trip there, and we decided it was for us. So the backs of those people was where the old tray line was, and what we did is we designed the pod in the shape of a T and went live in November of 2006. So how we did it in terms of metrics, we decided that 120 trays would come off each pod, that we would assign each host 30 people, 30 patients, that we would do a chef special menu, meaning we'd offer the patient a chef special. If they didn't choose that, they would order off a fixed menu, or what we could call a restaurant menu, of short order items. We took the 7-day cycle from our 28-day cycle that we used to run. We picked all the favorites that the patient had and made them our chef specials. We went from service order today, service tomorrow, to same-day service. We also had a centralized service, and the host was accountable for getting the patient's selections, then assembling the tray, delivering the tray, picking up the tray, and starting that process again. Initially, we did not have laptops, a mobile device to do that. We were using Seaboard's menu system, so we would get the patient's choices and come down and put them in place. Eventually, about 2 years later, we did get the mobile devices. So that's what we did at Shands at the University of Florida. When I started here at Thomas Jefferson, they had a 33-year-old decentralized cook-chill system, which we also converted to pods. They had a very selective restaurant menu, 40 patients per host, and we centralized from decentralized, and it was also a 7-day cycle menu. We are now trying to backpedal to be more like UF, where we have a chef special menu rather than the multiple choices that we currently offer.
Thank you. So I'm going to start with some Q&A. So, Susan, what is your definition of a pod?
Okay, we have the L-shaped pods, and we have them mirrored. We have 2-man workstations as our definition of what one pod is. So there's 2 people, one on a hot table, one on a cold side, and on each pod, and then a runner that goes between the 2, stocking them on the outside of the pod, and they also produce the tea and coffee for our trays.
Okay, and so a pod to you is the assembly portion of it. That's the assembly that defines what your pod is. Is that correct?
It is definitely, I would say yes, it's a point of assembly. We should call them POAs.
Okay. And who takes up your trays?
My trays go up with a separate team, the tray delivery team, and they are the ones that will be asking our patients for their menu selections. We haven't started that yet, but that's who will be doing that.
Okay. Robin, what is your definition of a pod?
A tray assembly system, and consisting of 3 main people, and just a route to getting trays assembled more efficiently and more quickly than a tray line.
Okay. And Robin, can a chef station be in a pod?
Yes, it can be. We do not use that system. I'm not completely familiar with it, but it certainly can be. You can actually use a pod with room service, with cook-chill, with whatever system you have going, from your food preparation system to your order entry systems.
Bill, what is your definition of a pod, and who runs your pod?
A pod for me is a tray assembly station. It's staffed by 1 person, the server, and hosts pull into it to assemble their trays to go to the floor. You can have an assembly station centralized, or you can also decentralize a pod to be closer to the patients, which we're currently going to do here at Thomas Jefferson. We have one already set to go in March, and then if it works out, we're going to establish another pod in another pantry. So we'll have 2 pods in the kitchen and 2 pods upstairs, and we have 1 pod over in the neuroscience hospital.
So, Bill, this will go to you, and then I'll go back to Robin. What is the biggest challenge for instituting a pod, and what is the biggest advantages for instituting a pod?
The biggest challenge is getting the money to do it. There needs to be a reason to do it, and you need to convince the higher powers of that reason. We were fortunate the 25-year-old circular tray line at Shands was going to die at any day. And here at Thomas Jefferson, Cook Chill sort of limited the menu they could offer, and it had been in practice for 33 years, and they wanted to go to cook and serve and not be cook and chill. What was the other part? Yep, go ahead.
It outlived its usefulness, and so it was a timing
Both
issue.
systems outlived their usefulness.
And so what was your biggest benefit?
Well, the benefit is the flexibility. The benefit is being able to go to same-day menu, be able to give the host the opportunity to service the needs of the patient and have complete responsibility and accountability for doing that. All of the reasons for doing it is to enhance the patient experience, and in both places that was the reason to do it, to give them a better product and to give them great service.
Okay. Susan, what was your biggest challenge for instituting pod point of delivery or point of assembly, and what was your biggest benefit for doing point of assembly?
Let me give you the benefit first. It was definitely the labor saving that allowed us to continue improving our food for our patients. Our challenge, believe it or not, was selecting the vendor for the equipment for the pods. And the reason it was a challenge is that we had some really, really tremendous bids for the business, and it was very difficult to actually make our selection because everybody had a really great product that they wanted to sell us. So the process took us a little bit of time, and in Canada we have the broader public sector guidelines that we have to follow, so that it was quite a cumbersome process, but that was our challenge.
Okay. And Robin.
Okay, so similar to Susan, our benefits were, we actually had no challenges. Our benefits were the decreased labor and better employee satisfaction. Challenges, we only had the 1 pod. Our plant operations department worked with us to take out the tray line, put in all the electrical requirements for where we wanted to relocate the existing equipment. About the only things we purchased were a table for the center medium between the 2 cold food servers that you'll see on some of the drawings, and some carts. So we weren't even close to, we were around $1,500 that it cost us to put in this system.
So you were able to retrofit it. Okay, okay.
Yes, we were. Mm-hmm.
How many pods, going to Susan, how many pods do you have to have per, so let's say you have X amount of patients, how many pods do you have, how many trays per pod?
We have 120 trays per pod. We could probably go up to 180 trays per pod, or if our patient count dropped, we could operate only 1 pod. So it's very flexible.
Robin, how many trays per pod do you do?
We do about 120 trays, and again, it's flexible up and down. If we were to drop way down for some reason, we could actually close one side of the pod.
Okay. Bill, how many trays per pod?
120. When we did it here at Thomas Jefferson, they had calculated 180, and with the menu being as extensive as it is, it was not doable in a timely manner. so we had to start cutting the menu in order to get the trays out on time. One of the reasons why we're going to a fourth pod, it'll take that 180 trays, which is in the main hospital. The neuroscience hospital only has 60 trays, and we do a half a pod. It will bring that average down to 130.
So does size matter when it comes to a pod as far as the amount of people in the hospital, patient beds, or it doesn't really matter?
It depends on how many people are eating. At Chanza, for some reason, we had a lot of tube feeding, so we only had 1.9 trays per person. Most hospitals have like 2.5, 2.6, so it was kind of different there. Here we have a lot of eaters, and as a consequence, we have a lot of trays at the main hospital.
Okay. All right. One of the questions is, can one of you speak, this is up for grabs, the question, can one of you speak to the ergonomics assessments with having a pod, point of assembly setup? The shoulder reaching, are there any repetitive motion strains, how you set up the pod?
This is Bill. I would say it's ergonomic and efficient. It accommodates people of all sizes, and since a pod is so flexible, at Shands we had, in that picture you can see we had air curtain refrigerators. Here at Thomas Jefferson we use cold food merchandisers, so things are easily visible as to where they are. It's better. I think it's better to have the cold food merchandisers than the air curtains. They take up more space, but you can see everything in it at one look.
And Bill, to add to that, there are, all you serve has air curtains that is actually clear glass, and you're actually vertical and open for 90 minutes and maintains temperature. So there are today equipment that actually does in a smaller footprint to do that. So it just depends. You could have two side by side versus
Yes.
an ice chest that you're bending into. But what I'm hearing you say is that, you know, your arms reach ergonomically. You're not reaching up like you do in a traditional tray line, above it like the ones that are rotate around. So you know, and when I saw Susan, when I looked at her floor plan, it seems like you made things within reach. I guess that was the advantage of going to point of assembly, is that you're making things more within that circumference of that person standing there. Is that correct, Robin and Susan as well?
Yes, it is. We have in Scarborough, we have very short people in our tray assembly operation. So they are able to reach no problem to the height of the equipment that we have. We have the gravity feed shelves, which also help. And of course, we put the mats on the floor to the anti-fatigue mats on the floor. But the biggest thing that we like about the pods is that there is no twisting. When you have a traditional tray line, people tend to twist rather than move their feet. So we find that this is working in our favor for that.
Okay. Another question: what are the hours of your operation? For example, someone had asked, what is your point of assembly? Is it a traditional breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Is the same person who's taking the food from the point of assembly to the patient too? So what are the hours? How do you run? Start with Susan. How do you run your operation?
Our assembly is traditional hours: 7:30 to 9 for breakfast, 11:30 to 1 for lunch, and 4:30 to 6 for supper. And so the folks that work on the pods assemble the trays, and then they clean up, because we have a separate tray delivery team that take the trays to the patient.
Okay. Robin?
We're different. Oh, go ahead, Robin.
Okay, we have our typical tray line time, 7:30 to like 8:15. It runs 45 minutes, give or take 15, depending upon census. As far as once the trays are assembled, we are working in tandem with helping our food service ambassadors take the carts upstairs and for delivery directly to patients.
Bill?
Yeah, the serving times are similar to theirs. At the end of service, we leave one pod open for late trays. The host takes the trays up, delivers them, and brings the truck back. We did that at Shands. Here, the truck we leave by the elevator, and one of the other dish room crew take the trucks back down to the dish room. The servers and runners who support the pod have multiple tasks. Some or most of them go into the dish room to when the trucks come back to strip and clean them.
Bill, how many delivery carts are needed to handle for the number of patients? Is it because you're doing 120? Do you use smaller delivery carts, larger?
It depends on the size of the floor. We have smaller carts for small floors and larger carts to take more trays to the larger floors. So it depends on how many trays, and like Robin or Susan said, it depends on your people. We have short people as well, so we had to get some shorter carts to accommodate them. We had somebody from ergonomics come down and push the carts and make recommendations as to where there should be handles on the carts more than there were for people to easily move them based on their size and weight.
Excellent. Susan.
How many carts? We have 20 carts.
They're open. They're open carts. Okay.
They're open carts, and they hold 18 trays per. So we use 2 carts per unit.
Okay.
And they're the old carts that we have used forever. We didn't have to buy new carts.
Okay. And Robin?
We chose to limit the amount of trays to each cart to 10, and so they could get delivered in a timely manner. So we have 19 carts, but there are 10 or less trays going up at a time.
Okay. Another question is, can you still utilize a room service line with the pod, point of assembly? And so I think what the person is asking is, like we talked about a chef station and having either a T or C up to that, butt up against that chef station. So I know that neither one of you are doing that, but from your experience, can you do that? Bill?
Well, I know that Tony Almeida at Robert Wood Johnson Hospital, he has room service, and his setup is kind of pods. Also, DCH in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, had similar setup to Tony's, where there were 2 cook stations, and so there were 2 pod assembly areas. And I would imagine you need 2 if you have a lot of trays, and 1 if you have a smaller hospital cooking. Well, actually, the tower that was built at Shands Hospital, which was a room service kitchen to cook to order to take up, so it had a tray rail in front of it to assemble the cold products and the cook station to finish the hot products. When the economy tanked back in, I guess 2009.
0708. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, when the economy tanked, the hospital did not want to hire enough FTEs to run it as a kitchen unto itself. So what we did is we used it as an assembly point, as a pod, to take care of those 192 beds. So you can do that with a cook station. And as a matter of fact, doing away with the tray line started at Lancaster General Hospital, and they used to go over to the cook station to get their hot food.
Okay, thank you. Susan, Robin, any contribution to that?
I think you could use it for anything. Really, all you have to do is think about the operation and organize it in a fashion that would work effectively for you. I think you can do anything with the pods.
So one question, this is for you, Robin. This was a question asked about getting started with the pods. Was it hard to get your food service staff on board with this change?
No, we met with our high performers and really involved them in the process and engaged them throughout it. They were actually excited, nervous, but excited, and they saw the potential, because when you have somebody that is a high performer and their coworkers are just standing there chatting or whatever while tray line is running, it's quite frustrating for them. So we got the cheerleaders on board first, and it seemed to go very smoothly.
And Susan, because you really went from one change to another.
We did, but we did the same thing as Robin did. We engaged the high performers, and the enthusiasm was infectious. We had a really great trainer from the company that we purchased our equipment from, and she led them through the process, the training process. They were so excited to start the very first day. They all came in early, and they were all really excited about doing it. So, and that has, we had been operational for a year. When I went out and I said, hey guys, let's have a celebration. We'd been doing it for a year. They said, really already? It's gone so quickly. They just love it.
So a point that she just made, Susan, is that whoever you're partnering with to help you from an equipment, whether the rep company, the manufacturer, to make sure that there is a trainer that can come on site and work with you. So make sure that you do have business partners that really do work with you, because that definitely helps in your success. So I've got a question for you, Bill. How long does it take to do 120 trays on each pod? Or 120 to 100, let's say you have 120 trays, how long does that particular pod take?
I wrote that's down someplace. Well, it used to take us when the circular tray line was running slow. It used to take us 2.9 trays a minute, 120 minutes. At 3.9, 90 minutes. But when we did pods, we were doing between 4.7 trays a minute and 5.8, so that dropped it to 75 minutes or 60 minutes. So between 60 and 75 minutes to get the trays done. The other thing about pods is because with six floors going at one time, three pods, when the census goes up and down, you don't feel it as much as on a singular line. You might add 30 more trays to the end of the line. It's like adding another truck. But on 6 pods, it may be only 5 trays on each floor. So it doesn't really throw the time off as much.
And a question was asked about tray checks, but I would make the point to me is that when you have a pod, it's kind of an individual tray line. So what it is that in each pod, each person, there is a checker at the end who will check before it goes into the cart, whether that's an ambassador, whoever that is assigned for that responsibility. So it becomes more accountable. And again, for 120, somebody is a lot less, more accurate, less tedious in that component. So definitely accuracy goes up for the many people I spoke to. And tray makeup in those pods is about 15 to 20 seconds versus what it was. Because again, your tray line is only as fast, when you have a traditional tray line, it's only as fast as your slowest employee setting it up. One of the other questions is we talked about savings as far as time, and we talked about, are there any other savings realized, money-wise, food-wise, would you say? Susan?
In our operation, we no longer stage things the way we used to. So we load our pods directly from our refrigerators. We don't move things to a holding fridge and then move them again. So we're saving time in how we set the tray line up. We will hopefully see a reduction in our food waste, but I'm not going to credit that to the pods. I'm going to credit that to bedside ordering when we get to that point. So off the top of my head, the savings is in time to set up the pods,
okay,
as well as the trays that we produce with fewer people.
Okay. So Robin, this is for you. Were there any Press Ganey or picker scores affected by changing from tray line to pods?
At the exact same time that we launched our pod, we changed from Press Ganey, where we were at the top 5 percentile for quite a long time, to PRC, and those few people who have PRC know that is a difficult score to achieve excellence on consistently. We dropped went from the top 5 to the bottom to 0 in 1 week, realized we had to recover. So the pod didn't really affect that, but what the outcome with the changes to the food service ambassadors, that now has us back up top 80th percentile, 90th percentile. We're kissing the 90th percentile now, which is very nice.
And Bill?
I had, as we had talked up before with Robin or Susan, that I had PRC also at Shands, and our scores went up immediately. Getting to the 90th percentile with PRC, the only question I ask is, how would you rate the food and service that you were given at the hospital? And they have to answer excellent or it doesn't count. So you have to get 36% of the respondents to say excellent in order to be in the 90th percentile. In 2009, we had reached the 90th percentile, so 2-3 years it took us to get there. In here at where I am now, Thomas Jefferson, we have Press Ganey, and we were low in Press Ganey. We shot to the top, but we are currently struggling.
Okay. So this is for Susan. What have the points of assembly pods done to food waste in your establishment?
I haven't seen a big change in food waste, but that's due to the way we provide food to our patients. It's not really due to the pods. I expect when we get to our bedside ordering, we will have less food waste, because our waste is basically coming back on our trays. So. Okay.
Robin, have you seen any change to your food waste or reduction of food production because of the pods?
No, it's similar to what Susan said. With our bedside menu entry, we get probably about 95% of our patients' orders, so they want what they get, and it's close to their mealtime. So, but the pod itself has not changed that. I don't think there's anything I can say that has contributed to food waste, the pod itself.
Okay. And Bill?
I would agree with everything they said.
And Bill, how do you handle special needs or allergens with pods? Because I know there are some people that have set up allergen pods, which means that any special needs, it's not 120, but it may be a 60 smaller pod that's set up for specifically gluten-free, peanuts, whatever. They're keeping it separate so that they're able to handle, again, from a liability point of view and accountability. So are you doing that, or are you handling it? How are you handling your special needs or allergens?
We don't separate it out. If there's an allergen, we comply with it on the pod. We keep that food separate.
Okay. Okay. And Susan?
Same. We have enough room on our pods to have everything there separated.
Okay. And Robin?
Same thing.
Same thing. Okay. One other question that was there, I'm reading. Can you use a pod system for trays that are going to be sent outside the home site? So well, obviously, I don't know. Bill may have done this. You had another hospital. Do you have one pod within each facility? I mean, one pod system, or have you shipped out food from a site?
Well, when you have multiple buildings, at Shands, to the new 192-bed building that had a full kitchen in it, what we did was we were connected by a tunnel, an underground tunnel. The hospital was across the street. So we would ship their food in a heated cabinet over to them, and they set it up in that kitchen similar to the pod we had, except they had more equipment. So over time, we eventually maybe cooked the hamburgers over there because they had a grill. But like here at Jefferson, the neuroscience hospital doesn't really have a kitchen. We've kept an oven over there in case they have to reheat something. That the warming cabinet won't heat it fast enough. But everything that they require comes out of our main kitchen. Does that answer your question? All right.
And Susan, I can chime in on that. We do have an off-site acute rehab unit, and a hospice home close by, but we run everything right off of that pod system. It works great. Works great. It's really nice.
That's great. Okay. So, Susan, I'll start with you. If you could do one thing over again to make your pod better, what would you do?
There's only one. Now that we have them, there's only one thing I would do better is I would measure twice. We have pillars in our kitchen, and where we placed our pods and where we did our electrical drops, etc., we are a little bit in a confined space. And I think I would measure again and perhaps set things up a little bit differently. We're fine. We just have one issue with door swing on one of the cabinets that poses a little bit of a problem when we start and when we finish the pod. But overall, I don't think I would change a lot. I like the setup, maybe just in a different spot in our kitchen.
Okay, thank you. Robin, what one thing would you do differently if you did it over again?
I can't
people
think
are
of
going to
anything.
learn from you. They're going to learn from you. That's what they're going to learn from your challenges.
You know, the only thing that we weren't quite sure who was going to do the cold side, the two what I think Bill's called hostesses. We started with what are now called our food service ambassadors, and not our tray people. And the tray people were frustrated. They would rather be putting those trays together like they were on the tray line. They were the starter. And so after a little while, we did flip-flop those people. The original intention was to do that, but then the food service ambassadors really, really wanted to do it. So then we tried it, but it seemed like it was better to have the starter people be on that station.
Okay, so you would go through the layout of looking at cold food and the component of it and how it related to getting it to the cart. Is that correct?
Which position was the best position to do the cold station?
Okay, thank you. And Bill, what one thing, if you could do it over again? Well, you've obviously done it several times, so I guess you've taken each thing and tweaked it.
I guess what helps, I'm a bad measurer too, that's why I let facilities do it, but actually a chance there wasn't anything I would have done differently. I think it came out pretty well, and the reason why I think it came out well is sort of where we started that you asked Robin and Susan about cheerleaders. If I had one recommendation to make, it would be go visit somebody else's operation and see what it's about, because you're not going to do it exactly the same. We went to WakeMed in Raleigh to see theirs, and they didn't spend anything to do their pod. They simply took their tray line and turned the steam tables around. Now we removed ours. We couldn't do that, but we took a team of people, not only managers. We took a cook, a tray line person, and a current host that was passing trays and selecting menu selections with the patient. We took those people, and then a second group actually went too, up to WakeMed in Raleigh, North Carolina, and they became our cheerleaders. And yes, we picked that they were people who were flexible and our best performers, but when they went to Raleigh, each of them paired up with their counterpart to find out what it was really like. And so when we came back, we were all convinced that no matter where we worked, whether we were on a tray line or whether we were a host or whether we were the cook, we could do it also. So I think that's what made it go so smoothly, and when it came out the other end, there weren't any regrets or things we had missed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And so one final question that I saw cropped up, and if anyone has any other questions, they can send it to me at mdiamond@allyouserve.com. But one final question, and then I'm going to go around to each of you with the final question and any last best advice. The final question is, did the implementation of the pod system impact your total food service FTE count? And is tray distribution a food service function in your facility?
Say that one again, Trey.
Did the implementation of the pod system impact your total food service FTEs count? And is trade distribution a food service function in your facility?
In both facilities I worked in, trade distribution was our responsibility. And I'm terrible. What was the first part of the question?
And did the implementation of the pod system impact your FTEs?
No. At Shands, it was budget neutral. Maybe there could have been savings, but I wasn't offering any. And here at Thomas Jefferson, they forced them to cut 12 FTEs out of their budget before going into the program, and it was not doable.
Okay. Susan?
Yes, we were able to save money in our FTEs, but we didn't cut the staff. We didn't reduce the staff. We just repurposed them. So, yes, it was a big savings for us. And we do trade delivery as a part of our function. And, again, my trade delivery team is just separate from my pod team.
Okay, but it's run by food service. It's just a different team, correct?
Yes, we are responsible in nutrition services for trade delivery and collection, yes.
Great. And Robin?
We took over trade distribution in September from nursing, and that has gone very well, and now we own the process from beginning to end. The total FTE count, it did reduce our labor, but we did not, as Susan didn't, we did not let anybody go. We redeployed that labor either in something that could reduce costs or increase revenue.
Thank you. So I wanted to thank the panelists, Susan, Robin, and Bill again, but I want to go around one final time. Susan, Robin, and Bill. Susan, give us one best advice that you would tell people if they were going to do the point of assembly. We should call it POA because it's the assembly and it can be combined. So, Susan.
I like what Bill said, go and see somebody who's got it in operation, but I would definitely consider it. It's been tremendous for us, and our staff satisfaction has gone through the roof.
Thank you. Robin.
I would say that if you're a systems person and you own graph paper, that you don't need to spend a lot of money on a consultant, so you can do this yourself. We did it, and it's so worth it. It's worth it from every aspect of food service management. I say go for it.
And Bill?
Again, go see somebody else who's doing it and take the people who change is going to happen to them because of it, and you'll have all the support you need, and you'll make some new friends so that, you know, when something doesn't work, you can call them, what did they do, because they've already been through it all and have made modifications to their program as it goes, and it's really easy to do.
So I would for the final thing, I would bring you back to this slide to make sure that everyone knows that pods is point of assembly and that it can be combined with a chef station, it can be with room service, and that you realize that there isn't one size fits all, and that traditional tray line may work for certain people, but it seems like from what I'm hearing from the people that were on the panel today and from many people is that it allows you to have small footprint, more flexibility, re-engineer your staffing component, and give you the ability to have, whether you have a room service or you have a traditional, you can actually have both if you need it to be in a pod. You can have one pod being for room service floors and one pod and for traditional trays. So it has its application in whether you're horizontal in a hospital or vertical hospital, urban hospital, or you're in long-term facilities as well. So I think there is a lot more flexibility in using that as of today. Well, I wanted to thank the panelists again. Thank you, Susan, Robin, and Bill. Thank you, everyone who's joined us today. We've got a big number that joined us, and we appreciate that. Any questions, you can send it to the panelists, or you can send it directly to me at mdiamond@allyouserve.com. Thank you for joining us today, and the recording, the PowerPoint, and the certificate of participation will be on the All You Serve website early next week. Thank you for joining us for January's webinar. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
Goodbye.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Everybody there? Hi.
Hey,
Good
Susan
job,
and
Bill.
Robin.
I was like, Susan, are you there?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. You guys did great.
Yeah, it was. It was
Fun.
fun.
I was
It was
stumbling
fun.
over my